If someone had told me love might begin where the bribe ended, I'd have denied it. I barely registered the invitation at first. At 6 p.m. Friday meeting was unusual, but my boss thrived on unusual. Vivian Kincaid, CEO of one of the most formidable PR firms in the state, wasn't a woman who made small talk or squandered minutes. So when her assistant called me to her office after hours, I assumed it was about the Graham account, or the Ravenport pitch I'd been pushing. I had no idea what she was about to ask. Her office, glass, leather, polished steel, rose like a throne over the Graybridge skyline. She stood by the window when I arrived, silhouetted by golden hour light, her posture as composed as ever. "Close the door, Maya," she said without turning. I obeyed, smoothing my blazer, heart picking up pace. She finally faced me, her expression unreadable. "You've been with us for 3 years now." "Yes," I said cautiously. "Almost 4, actually. And in that time, you've been reliable, discreet, competent." "More than competent," I swallowed. "Thank you." She moved behind her desk, sat down, folded her hands. "I need to ask something of you. And before I do, I want to make it clear that you're free to say no. There will be no consequences to your position here. Do you understand?" My mouth went dry. Okay. "I want to hire you," she said. "To date my daughter." I blinked. Once, twice. The words didn't compute. "I'm sorry." "What?" "My daughter Rowan. She's 23. Smart, stubborn, wildly independent. She's going through a phase. Dating people who aren't good for her, flaking on responsibilities, sabotaging herself for reasons I can't pretend to understand." I was frozen. "You want me to?" "I want you to go on a few dates with her. Take her out. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you. Get to know her. Be a positive influence. Show her that stability and decency still exist." My jaw practically hit the floor. "Are you serious?" "I'll compensate you generously," she said, sliding a folder across the desk. "It's not prostitution. It's persuasion. And again, you can say no. This conversation never leaves this room." I opened the folder with shaking hands. The number inside was obscene, more than I made in 6 months. I looked up at her, trying to find some trace of amusement or malice in her eyes. There was none, only ruthless precision. "Why me?" I asked. "Because she won't see a therapist. She won't talk to me. But she might listen to someone like you, someone intelligent, grounded, charming. She's into women. She's dated recklessly, but I think she needs to see what it's like to be treated well." "You want me to manipulate your daughter?" "I want you to give her a chance to see herself through better eyes." The silence that followed was thick with disbelief. But beneath that disbelief, something darker stirred curiosity. I'd seen Rowan Ashford once briefly at a company party. She'd shown up late, hair tousled, combat boots scuffed, black eyeliner smudged like she didn't care how anyone saw her. She didn't stay long. She barely looked at anyone. But when her eyes flicked over me in passing, something inside me tightened. I never forgot it. "You're serious?" I said. Vivian nodded once. "She's going to think I'm some kind of stalker. She'll think you're interested. That's all. I'll make sure the first introduction is natural." I stared at the check again. My rent was overdue. My sister needed help with tuition. I'd been eating noodles and vending machine granola bars for 2 weeks. But more than that, I was intrigued. I should have said no. I should have walked out, but instead, I heard myself say, "I'll do it." Vivian smiled. "Good. That's how I ended up at Copper Finch Cafe on Sunday afternoon, pretending to read a novel I'd never opened, waiting for a girl I'd never really met. The plan was simple. Casual run-in, coffee, conversation. The rest, Vivian said, was up to me. At 2:14 p.m., she walked in and suddenly everything inside me stopped. Rowan was art in motion. Leather jacket slung over one shoulder, headphones around her neck, a chipped black manicure on fingers that looked like they'd sketch poems in margins. Her dark hair was longer now, curls unruly, framing a face that was both sharp and soft. Her eyes, green, piercing, guarded, landed on me. And just like that, I forgot the money. I forgot the job. I forgot every reason I was supposed to be there. She arched an eyebrow. "Are you Maya?" My voice barely worked. Yes. My mother said you were interesting. I gave a tight smile. She said the same about you. She slid into the seat across from me, uninvited, radiating amused suspicion. So, what's your deal? Corporate suit with a tragic backstory. Freelance tragic, contractually optimistic. She laughed, actually laughed, and it was the most dangerous sound I'd ever heard. You're not what I expected. Neither are you. We ordered coffee, we talked, and I watched her walls twitch, shift, sway, but not fall. Not yet. And still, something sparked between us, electric and dangerous and undeniably real. When she stood to leave, she glanced back and said, "That was less terrible than I expected. Want to do it again?" I nodded. As she walked away, something inside me screamed. This wasn't going to be a job. This wasn't going to be simple. I could feel it thrumming under my skin, a storm building behind my ribs. I was going to fall for her, and I wasn't sure I'd survive it. I didn't sleep. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, replaying the coffee shop conversation on a loop. Rowan's smirk. The way she drummed her fingers when she was thinking. The brief curl of her mouth into something that almost counted as a real smile. I told myself it was just work, just a role. I was doing a favor for money, yes, and for a woman I'd worked under for nearly 4 years. But nothing about Rowan felt like work. Nothing about the tightness in my chest when her eyes met mine made sense in the language of compensation. I was in trouble. Deep trouble. The next morning, Vivian's assistant called. She wants a report, he said bluntly. This isn't a military operation, I muttered. Still, she wants to know how it went. I paused. Tell her it went well. And I'm meeting her again on Thursday. She'll be pleased. I hung up before I said something stupid. Thursday came too slowly and too fast at once. We met at the Rusted Anchor this time. Rowan's choice. It was all dim lighting and sticky floors and cheap tequila. She was already at the bar when I arrived. Sipping something neon green through a black straw. You're overdressed, she said by way of greeting. You look like you're about to pitch an ad campaign to the Supreme Court. You look like you just got out of a mosh pit. Flattery will get you nowhere, corporate. But she was smiling. We sat in a booth near the back, and this time I ordered a drink that matched the chaos of the place. We talked about music, movies, everything except family. Her walls were up again, but she let me peek through cracks. When she talked about her favorite bands, her face lit up. When I mentioned I liked old poetry, she rolled her eyes, then asked me to recite something. I did. And her smirk melted into something softer. Okay, she said. That was hot. I almost choked on my drink. Excuse me, she laughed. What? It's rare someone quotes Edna St. Vincent MLE without sounding like a pretentious ass. So, I sound like a charming ass. Undecided, we stayed for hours. And somewhere between the second drink and the jukebox song she sang under her breath, I forgot all about the paycheck waiting in a folder at home. I only remembered her laugh, her voice, the way she leaned in when I spoke like I was saying something worth hearing. When we walked outside, the air was cold and she shivered. Without thinking, I took off my coat and placed it over her shoulders. She stared at me for a beat too long. You're not what I expected, she said quietly. Neither are you, I replied. I thought you'd be more polished, fake, like everyone else in my mother's world. And what am I? Unsettling. I blinked. That's not very flattering. It wasn't meant to be. You make me nervous. In a good way. My throat tightened. That's mutual. She stared at me. The street light cast a soft glow over her face, highlighting every curve, every shadow. I wanted to kiss her. God, I wanted to kiss her, but I didn't. Instead, I walked her to her building, hands in my pockets, heart slamming against my ribs. She lingered at the door. You want to come up? The air between us shifted thicker, charged. I hesitated. I shouldn't. Why? Because your mother is paying me. Because this is a lie. Because if I cross that line, I won't come back. But all I said was because I'm not ready to leave yet. She stared at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Then she nodded. Okay, another time then. Yeah, another time. I walked away without looking back. If I had, I might have run into her arms. I didn't hear from Vivian that week, and I didn't reach out. I didn't want to give her updates anymore. I wanted Rowan to be mine, to know her without the weight of expectation or transaction. I wanted something real, and real was dangerous. By the time Saturday rolled around, I was pacing my apartment, unsure whether to call Rowan or let her call me. She solved the dilemma by texting me at 6:23 p.m. "You free?" I replied instantly. "Always." She sent me an address. When I arrived, it wasn't a bar or a coffee shop. It was an art studio, empty, closed for the night. She was waiting inside, perched on a stool, barefoot, a paintbrush in her hand and streaks of color on her cheeks. "You paint?" I said, stunned. "Sometimes," she shrugged. "Mostly when I'm too mad to scream." "Are you mad now?" "No," she looked at me, eyes unreadable. "I'm curious." I stepped closer. "About you." She dipped the brush into blue and dragged it across the canvas without looking. "Who are you, Maya? What do you want right now?" I asked. "Yes. I want you to stop looking at me like I'm about to disappear." Her hand froze, our eyes locked. She stood, walked over slowly. "You scare me," she whispered. "Because you're not temporary." I reached for her hand, then let me stay. She kissed me softly, tentatively, and then again, deeper, more certain. I didn't remember how to breathe. I didn't want to. Her mouth tasted like wine and unspoken truth. Her fingers tangled in my hair. When we finally pulled apart, she rested her forehead against mine. "This is going to get messy," she said. "I know. And you're still here?" "I'm not going anywhere." I meant it. God help me. I meant every word. The kiss changed everything. It shouldn't have. It was just lips against lips. Breath shared in the quiet of an empty studio. The world outside forgotten. But when Rowan kissed me, it wasn't careful. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real. And in that realness, I felt everything start to unravel. We didn't sleep together that night. We didn't need to. We stayed in the studio tangled in blankets on the floor, trading stories like confessions in the dark. She told me about her childhood, about boarding school she ran from, about the silence that grew between her and Vivian like a wall of ice. I told her about my sister, about the scholarship she almost lost, about the things I gave up to keep her afloat. I didn't tell her everything. I didn't tell her about the folder with the check inside. I didn't tell her that this started as a job because it didn't feel like one anymore. It felt like falling slowly, terrifyingly, irrevocably. When I got home that morning, my phone was full of missed calls. "Vivian." I stared at the screen for a long time before answering. "Where have you been?" she demanded. "Out," I said. "With her?" "Yes." "Is it working?" "Define working." "Is she changing?" "Is she opening up?" "She's a person, not a project." Silence. "Then don't forget why you're doing this." "That's the problem," I whispered. "I can't forget." I hung up before she could answer. For the rest of the day, I felt like I was living in two lives. The one where I was Maya, the reliable, competent employee following orders, keeping secrets. And the one where I was Maya, the woman who kissed Rowan Ashford under starlight and meant it. I couldn't keep both. Something had to break and I was terrified it would be me. The next time I saw Rowan, it was at a small rooftop concert downtown. She texted me the location with no warning, no greeting, just a pin drop. When I arrived, she was already there, curled up in a hammock chair, sipping a beer and watching the band. She wore ripped jeans, a faded Joy Division t-shirt, and a smile that could kill. "Hey, corporate," she said as I slid into the seat beside her. "Didn't think you'd come? You said beer and music. How could I resist?" She handed me a bottle, our fingers brushing. The air between us shifted like it always did now. We listened, we drank, and somewhere between songs, she leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you ever feel like the world's watching you, just waiting for you to screw up every day?" "I think that's why I like you." "Because I'm a screw-up." "No," she said, tilting her head to look at me. "Because you don't flinch when I do." I wanted to tell her that I flinched inside every time I lied. That every moment I spent with her made the truth harder to carry. But instead, I kissed her again. And she kissed me back like she didn't want to breathe without me. We didn't talk about what we were. We didn't label it, but it grew anyway, wild and beautiful. She started texting me in the middle of the night. I started leaving her notes in her sketchbooks. We had coffee in silence that felt like home. We argued about books, movies, everything. But even the fights felt intimate. She made me laugh in ways I hadn't in years. And every time she touched me, my body forgot how to pretend. But the secret didn't forget. It waited, watched, lurking beneath every kiss, every soft smile, every whispered promise. One night, as we lay in bed, tangled and half-dressed, she ran her fingers down my spine and said, "What's your worst secret?" My heart stopped. What? Your worst secret? The one you think would ruin everything? I swallowed. Why? Because I want to know you. All of you, even the broken parts, especially those. I opened my mouth, closed it. The words burned. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to rip the truth out of me and throw it between us and beg her to understand. But I didn't. I kissed her instead. And when she moaned into my mouth, I let myself believe it would be okay. That maybe, just maybe, she'd never have to know. I was wrong. A week later, she found the folder. I don't know how. Maybe she was looking for a charger. Maybe it slipped out of my bag. But when I walked into her apartment that night, she was sitting on the couch, the folder open in her lap, her face pale and unreadable. "What is this?" she asked, holding up the check. My stomach dropped. "Rowan, you took money to date me?" Her voice was ice. "No, I mean, yes, but it's not what you think." "Then explain it. Please make me understand how I'm not just a __e assignment." "It started like that," I whispered, "but it didn't stay that way. I swear to you, Rowan, you lied to me. I tried to tell you. I wanted to, but you lied to me." Her voice cracked. My chest split. "You were the first person I trusted in years. The first person I let touch me and see me." And now she stood, shoved the folder into my hands. "Get out, Rowan. Get out." I did because I couldn't breathe. Because I destroyed the only thing that ever felt real. Because I didn't deserve her forgiveness. The days after Rowan kicked me out were a blur of silence and regret. I kept checking my phone like an addict, hoping for a message, a missed call, anything that would tell me she hadn't cut me out completely. But the screen stayed cold and empty, just like my chest. The ache was constant. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. That mix of betrayal and heartbreak that had shattered something inside both of us. I replayed the moment she found the folder over and over, thinking of 100 different ways I could have told her the truth earlier, but none of them would have erased the lie. The lie was not that I took the money. It was that I stayed silent when I stopped needing it. I didn't go to work. I couldn't walk into that office knowing Vivian sat 2 floors above me, knowing this all started with her checkbook. I resigned by email. No explanation, no goodbye. She didn't respond. Maybe she knew she'd lost more than an employee. Maybe she didn't care. What mattered was that I'd lost Rowan. And the world was quieter without her. Colors were duller. Music meant nothing. Food tasted like dust. I tried to write a letter. I tried to explain how what started as a job had turned into something I never expected. How she wasn't just someone I was paid to know. She became the air I breathed, the fire I woke up craving. But every time I put pen to paper, the words felt inadequate. So I let silence stretch between us like a wound I didn't know how to close. Weeks passed. My savings dwindled. My sister called, worried, asking if I was okay. I lied and said I was. I didn't want to burden her. I didn't want anyone to know how badly I'd broken the one thing that ever felt like it belonged to me. Then one rainy afternoon, I saw her. I was leaving the grocery store. Hoodie pulled up against the drizzle when she appeared across the street. Umbrella tilted against the wind. My breath caught. She looked the same. Maybe a little thinner, maybe a little sadder. She didn't see me, or if she did, she didn't show it. I watched her walk into a bookstore and disappear. I stood there for minutes, soaked and shaking, and then I ran. Not to her. Not yet, but home. I wrote the letter again. This time it came out like a confession. I poured every truth I'd buried, every feeling I was afraid to name. I told her how I didn't expect to fall for her. How I couldn't stop falling even now. How I walked away because I thought it's what she needed, but how I'd wait forever if she asked me to. I didn't send it. Not right away. I read it a dozen times, folded it carefully, and tucked it into the pocket of the coat I hadn't worn since that night. I told myself if I saw her again, I'd give it to her. If the universe wanted us to have another chance, it would put her in my path again. It did. A week later, same bookstore. I don't know what pulled me there. Maybe hope, maybe desperation. But when I walked in and saw her standing near the poetry section, I knew this was it. My hand shook as I pulled the letter from my pocket. She saw me this time. Her expression was unreadable. She didn't run. She didn't smile, but she didn't leave either. I walked toward her slowly, each step a quiet prayer. "Hi," I said. "E?" Her voice was low. "I wrote something," I said, holding out the letter. "It isn't enough, but it's everything." She looked at it, then at me. "I don't know if I can read that." "That's okay," I said. "You don't have to. Just keep it. In case, someday, you want to know." She took it. Her fingers brushed mine and my knees nearly buckled. "I miss you," I whispered. Her eyes fell shut for a second, like the words hurt. "You should go." I nodded, turned, left, and cried the whole way home. But she didn't rip the letter. She didn't throw it back. That had to mean something. I told myself it did. Days passed. No reply. I tried to move forward. I got a new job at a nonprofit downtown, kept my head down, did good work. I didn't smile much, until the night I found an envelope wedged in my door. My name on the front. No return address. My hand shook as I opened it, one page, handwritten, Rowan's handwriting. "I read your letter twice. I hated it the first time. I cried the second. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I never stopped loving you. And I don't know what to do with that." I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, repeating her words like a mantra. I don't know what to do with that. It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't final either. It was a thread, and I wrapped both hands around it. I kept the letter in my jacket pocket for days, afraid to move it, afraid to smudge the ink, as if the words might vanish. I reread it a dozen times, my heart clenching hardest at the line that mattered. "I don't know if I can forgive you, but I never stopped loving you." It felt like someone had cracked open the door to a room I'd been locked out of, and I didn't dare push too fast. I didn't answer right away. Everything I drafted sounded like begging, or worse, a performance, and Rowan would see through both. She always had. So I waited. One evening, walking home from work, I saw her outside my building. She was leaning against the brick, arms crossed, wearing that leather jacket I loved, her expression unreadable. My breath caught. "Rowan, don't talk," she said. "Not yet. Let me say what I came to say." I nodded, heart pounding. She stepped closer, slow, uncertain. "I don't know what this is anymore," she said. "Us. This mess. I still feel like I don't know what was real and what wasn't." "It was real," I whispered. She shook her head. "Maybe, but I still feel like a fool. I let myself believe in something and then I found out I was part of a deal, a transaction, a lie." "It started that way," I said quietly. "But it didn't stay there." "I didn't stay there. But you didn't tell me." Her voice cracked. "You looked me in the eye. You kissed me. You held me. And you still let me fall without warning me." "Because I was falling, too," I said. "And I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to undo what I'd already done." Silence stretched between us, thick with everything we'd never said. She sighed, looking down at her boots. "I wanted to hate you. I tried to. But I kept thinking about the way you looked at me when you thought I wasn't watching. And the way your hands shook the night I kissed you first. And the way you never asked me for anything except time. Because time with you was enough." I said it still is. Her eyes met mine and something in them softened. "I don't want to forget what you did," she said. "I don't want to erase it or pretend it didn't hurt. I wouldn't ask you to, but I also don't want to lose the only person who ever made me feel like I could be more than what people see." My chest. "Then let's start over," I said. "Not from the beginning, but from here with everything on the table." She hesitated. "No secrets, none. No lies, never again, no money." I laughed, broken and breathless. "God, no. Just you, just us." She stepped closer. "What if I can't trust you yet?" "Then I'll wait until you can." And then slowly she leaned in. Her forehead rested against mine. Her breath was warm. "I missed you," she whispered. "I missed you every second." I breathed. She kissed me soft, hesitant, a question more than a statement. I answered her with my hands on her face with the tears that slipped down my cheeks with every part of me that had been waiting to be forgiven. We didn't go inside. We walked for hours through streets lit by neon signs and headlights and the faint pulse of a city that didn't care what we were rebuilding. She told me about the weeks without me, how she couldn't draw, couldn't sleep, how she'd read my letter so many times she could recite it. I told her about the nights I sat by the door, hoping she'd appear. About how everything turned grayscale without her. "You hurt me," she said quietly as we sat on a park bench near dawn. "I know," I said. "I hate that I let you in, and you still did. She exhaled. Yeah. And I think I'd risk it again, if you promise not to break me next time. I turned to her. I promise to try like hell not to. I promise to be better. I promise never to treat you like anything less than the best thing that's ever happened to me. She studied me for a long beat. Okay, she said. Okay, we'll try. I walked her home as the sun edged up, and for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. We didn't rush. We didn't sleep together. We sat in her living room wrapped in blankets, watching old movies in a hush, our hands finding each other like magnets. When she drifted off with her head on my shoulder, I didn't move. I listened to her breathing and tried to memorize the sound. I knew we weren't fixed. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But we were trying. We were choosing each other again. And sometimes that's where love begins. Falling back into love wasn't neat. It wasn't gentle or simple. It was jagged, tentative, like walking barefoot across glass just to feel the other person's heartbeat again. Rowan and I didn't announce anything. There was no grand reunion speech, no post to prove it, no morning after certainty that everything was suddenly right. There were only small things, the way she made 2 mugs of tea without asking, the way I texted when I got home, the quiet lean in at crosswalks, the soft check-ins when the room went still. Little threads. Enough to start again. Her hand reaching for mine across the couch. My coffee waiting on her counter in the morning. A playlist she made me full of songs she used to listen to alone. The kind of intimacy you only build when you've already broken. The hardest part wasn't learning how to be together. It was unlearning the fear of losing it all again. I still watched her when she slept, heart aching from the weight of what I'd almost destroyed. She still flinched sometimes when I touched her without warning, but we talked. We whispered truths at midnight and held each other longer than necessary and promised things not with grand declarations, but with showing up again and again. I started drawing again. Rowan encouraged me. No, demanded I share my sketchbook. She flipped through the pages with reverence, pointing to one she loved most. This one, she said, touching a charcoal sketch of a woman curled into herself. It looks like me when I first met you. It is you, I said. She looked at me with something like awe. You saw that? I couldn't look away. She kissed me then, slow and quiet. The kind of kiss that made time pause. The kind of kiss that felt like a vow. We spent days wrapped around each other, relearning how to laugh, how to breathe and sink. She took me to her favorite bookstores, her secret rooftop, where she painted when the world got too loud, the lake she used to run to when she was a teenager full of rage and loneliness. I showed her the small apartment I'd lived in before all of this. The diner where I went when I needed silence. The photo album of my sister and me as kids. Wild and barefoot and free. We stitched our lives together one detail at a time. But the world hadn't forgotten us. One afternoon, Rowan's phone buzzed while we were cooking. She looked at the screen and went still. It's my mom, she said. My stomach turned. Are you going to answer? She wants to meet tomorrow. Lunch. I nodded slowly. Are you going? Do you want me to? I want you to do what feels right. She studied me. What would you do if she offered you money again to walk away from me? I didn't hesitate. I'd tell her to keep it and then I'd come home to you. She didn't smile, but she leaned into me and rested her head against my chest. Then I'll go. Not for her, for me. The next day she went. I waited. I paced. I nearly wore a hole in the floor. When she came back, she looked exhausted, wind-blown, eyes guarded. I stood well. She exhaled, dropped her bag, sat on the edge of the bed. She asked if you manipulated me. If I'd been brainwashed, if this was still about revenge. Revenge? She thinks I'm punishing her by loving you. And what did you say? Rowan met my eyes fierce and steady. I told her I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just finally choosing what makes me happy for once without her permission. My chest tightened and she didn't take it well. I'm sorry. Rowan shrugged. I'm not. That night we made love like it was the first time. No rushing, no walls, just skin against skin, breath against breath, hands tangled, mouths memorizing every line. Her body felt like truth, like redemption, like everything I'd ever needed but didn't think I deserved. She whispered my name like a prayer. I said hers like an apology and a promise. When we fell asleep, our limbs still tangled. I knew with terrifying clarity. I didn't just love her. I belonged to her. The next morning, I woke to her cooking eggs in the kitchen, hair a mess, one of my t-shirts hanging off her shoulder. She looked over and grinned. You're staring. You're beautiful. You're biased. I'm blessed. She rolled her eyes, but her smile was soft. Eat. You've got a long day of pretending not to be in love with me. I'm not pretending anymore, I said. Not with anyone. Her eyes met mine, and something passed between us. Warm and wordless. The start of forever. The first time we were seen together in public, after everything, it wasn't planned. We were walking out of an art exhibit downtown, something Rowan had dragged me to because, in her words, I needed to stop living in grayscale. I hadn't expected to enjoy it. But watching her move through the gallery, eyes lit, fingers twitching near her hip as if she wanted to sketch everything she saw, I realized it didn't matter what we were looking at. I would have followed her anywhere. The night air was cold when we stepped out, and I instinctively reached for her hand. She laced her fingers with mine without hesitation. The click of a phone camera was soft but distinct. Rowan didn't flinch. But I did. She turned to me, squeezing my hand. Don't look. I already did. It doesn't matter, she said. Let them talk. But they didn't just talk. They whispered. They posted. They speculated. The photo landed on a business-side gossip blog, a grainy shot of us hand in hand, her leaning into me like it was the most natural thing in the world. The headline blared, Kincaid's daughter dating ex-employee in scandalous turn of events. Vivian didn't call, but Rowan's phone lit up 6 times the next day. She let it ring. You sure? I asked as we lay on the couch, her head in my lap, my fingers threading through her hair. Absolutely. She's still your mom. She's also the reason you had to lie to me in the first place. I kept quiet. The silence stretched. Rowan pushed herself upright. I know that isn't completely fair. You chose to keep it secret. But she's not innocent in this. She built the situation. She tried to choreograph my feelings like a campaign. She thought she was helping. She was controlling, like always. I didn't argue. She was right. Vivian hadn't just crossed a line. She'd redrawn the entire map without asking. And we were still walking through the wreckage. That weekend, an unexpected email hit my inbox from the company's HR department, cool, formal, demanding a statement, clarification. The message was obvious, Vivian was under pressure to respond. The story was spreading, and the board was unhappy. My pulse kicked as I stared at the screen. They want me to make a statement, I told Rowan. She sat on the edge of the bed, eyes dark. What are you going to say? That I'm not ashamed of us. She blinked. Are you sure? Completely. I wrote it carefully, no dramatics, no blame, just the truth. I said the relationship began after my resignation. That I didn't want attention, only to protect someone I cared for deeply. That love isn't a scandal. I sent it, shut the laptop, and tucked myself into Rowan's arms. I hate that you have to defend loving me, she whispered. I'd do it 1,000 times, I whispered back. The backlash was mild, some online noise, a few passive-aggressive notes from old colleagues. The worst came when Vivian finally reached out, inviting Rowan to dinner. Just Rowan. Are you going? I asked. Conflict flickered across her face. I think I have to. Not for her. For me. I kissed her forehead. Then go. I'll be here. She returned 3 hours later, pale and quiet, eyes glassy. I stood as soon as she walked in. What happened? She sank down, shrugging off her coat. She thinks this is still a phase. That I'm throwing my future away. That I'm acting out of rebellion. I knelt in front of her. You're not. I know, she said, voice breaking. But hearing it from her still hurts. I wrapped her up and held on as she cried. She doesn't get to define your happiness, I murmured. What did you say? Rowan pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. I said yes. The breath rushed from my lungs. You do. I do, she said softly. Even when I hated you, even when I tried not to. I love you. I cooped her face, kissed her like the world was ending. I love you, too. God, I love you. That night, we slept wrapped in each other like the answer to a question neither of us could ask before. It wasn't just sex. It was something deeper, something sacred. Our bodies moved like we'd been searching for this exact rhythm our entire lives. And when we lay tangled in the aftermath, her hand resting on my heart, I knew it wasn't just survival anymore. We were building something new, something real, something that could stand even if the world didn't want it to. In the morning, we didn't say goodbye. We said, see you soon. And for the first time, I believed it. After that night, something shifted. Not just between Rowan and me, but in the air around us, like we had declared something sacred, and the world for once had decided to let us hold it. But we knew it wouldn't last. Love was fragile when it was young, and ours was still healing, still learning how to breathe. We tried to pretend things were normal, but nothing was. People stared. Her name trended for 2 days on local business forums. My inbox filled with messages I refused to open. Her mother stopped contacting her altogether. And still every morning we woke up tangled in each other, breathing in sync, holding on. I started keeping my sketchbook by the bed. She liked to watch me draw, her chin on my shoulder, her breath brushing my neck as my pencil moved. "Do you always draw the people you love?" she asked one morning, her voice husky from sleep. "Only the ones I can't stop thinking about," I said. "So, just me, only you?" I whispered and kissed her shoulder. She leaned back into me, eyes closing. "You're going to ruin me or rebuild you." Same thing. We laughed, but there was truth in it. Because every time I touched her, I felt how close the wound still was beneath the skin. And every time she looked at me with softness in her eyes, I knew she was choosing me over fear. We were better now, clearer, more honest, but we were still learning how to exist in this new truth. And the outside world wasn't going to make it easy. One morning, as we sat in the sun-drenched corner of our favorite cafe, sipping coffee and pretending the rest of the city didn't exist, a woman approached our table. Older, expensive perfume, hard eyes. I knew her before she spoke. "Maya." I stood instinctively. "Mrs. Kincaid." Rowan stiffened beside me. "I asked for a private conversation," she said coldly. "And I declined," Rowan said, not looking at her. "Please," Vivian said, addressing me now. "Just a moment. I need to understand." I didn't move. Rowan reached for my hand, squeezed it under the table. "You had your chance," she said to her mother. "You don't get to come here and interrogate her like this." "I'm not interrogating," Vivian said, voice tight. "I'm trying to make sense of how I lost my daughter to a woman I paid to manipulate her." The words cut deep. I didn't flinch, but I felt Rowan's hand tense. "You didn't lose me," she said. "You never had me. You had an idea of who I was supposed to be, and anything that didn't fit got pushed away. You think this fits?" Vivian snapped. This public spectacle? Do you think anyone's going to take you seriously now?" "She does," Rowan said. "And that's all I need." Vivian turned to me, eyes narrowed. "What do you want from her?" "Nothing," I said evenly. "I wanted nothing when I fell in love with her, and I still want nothing except the chance to prove that love means more than how it started." Vivian stared at me, her face unreadable. Then she turned and left. Just like that, Rowan exhaled, her grip loosening. "That went better than expected." "Did it?" I expected yelling, possibly thrown beverages. "She's too controlled for that." "But you scared her," Rowan said, smiling. "You didn't back down." "I never will." Later that night, Rowan painted for hours while I read nearby. Music played low. The room smelled like paint and candle wax and something that felt like home. At one point, she looked over at me and said, "What if this doesn't last?" "Why wouldn't it?" "Because it's us. Because we've already burned it once. Then we'll build it better. Promise." I got up, walked to her, dipped my fingers in blue paint, and touched her collarbone with it. "I promise." She pulled me close, smeared red across my cheek and kissed me with color on her lips. We made love on the paint-stained floor, and in the morning, we laughed as we cleaned the streaks from each other's skin. Love wasn't easy, but it was ours. And for the first time in either of our lives, that was enough. The seasons shifted quietly. Leaves gave way to bare branches, and the cold crept in beneath the windows of our shared apartment like it was trying to test the warmth we'd built between us. But the warmth held. Each morning began with the slow comfort of arms around waists, of coffee mugs exchanged without words, of notes scribbled in fogged mirrors. Rowan would always find a way to surprise me. A new song playing in the kitchen when I came home. A sketch tucked into my notebook. A text sent in the middle of the day that just said, "Still choosing you." I lived for those moments, for the quiet proof that we were still writing something together. But love, even when it's chosen, comes with challenges. We knew the world hadn't forgotten what we were. My job interview stalled when employers connected my name to the Ashford family drama. Rowan's freelance work was quietly cut from 2 publications after whispers made their way to editorial desks. No one said it aloud, but we knew we were being punished for loving out loud. Still, she never suggested we hide. She walked with me hand in hand through every market, every sidewalk, every awkward encounter with people who once admired her from a distance, and now looked at her like she was a rebellion they couldn't endorse. One evening after a gallery opening where her work had been conspicuously omitted, Rowan sat on the fire escape, smoking in silence. I slid in beside her and pulled the couch blanket over our shoulders. "Want to talk about it?" I asked. "What's there to say?" She murmured, eyes on the skyline. "They don't want me. Not like this. Not like you." She turned, face unreadable. "Would you have told me if I hadn't found the folder?" "No," I said honestly. "Eventually, but not soon enough." "I still think about it," she admitted. "Sometimes it crawls in at night, the thought that maybe you were just playing me." My chest ached. "I hate that I gave you a reason to doubt." "You didn't just give me a reason," she said softly. "You gave me a scar. And the strange thing is, I love it now, because it reminds me we survived." Moonlight cut across her cheek, a cigarette poised between her fingers, her eyes holding something too vast to name. "Do you ever regret staying?" I asked. She shook her head. "Do you?" "Never. We let the city move around us, indifferent. The moment stayed ours, sharp, necessary, healing." Later that week, an email arrived from Vivian. Short, blunt, lunch. "Just you. No expectations." I stared at the screen until Rowan drifted over my shoulder. "You going?" "Do you want me to?" She hesitated. "I want to know what she wants, but I also need to know you're strong enough to say no if she asks you to disappear." "Then I'll go," I said. "And I'll come back." She nodded once. I kept my promise. The restaurant was neutral ground, quiet, polished, the kind of place where deals whisper behind glassware. Vivian arrived on the dot, immaculate, composed, untouchable, with something altered in her eyes. She didn't circle the point. "She's in love with you," she said. I didn't answer. "And she's more herself than I've seen in years. I suppose I should be grateful, but I'm not." I waited. "I'm angry," she went on. "Not because she loves you, but because I missed it, the moment she stopped needing my approval and started building her own life." "You didn't miss it," I said gently. "You just weren't invited." A single blink. Then a nod. "You're right." She lifted her wine. "I came to ask you to take care of her, but I don't think I need to." "No," I said. "You don't." "Still," she added, voice softer, "if you ever hurt her again, you'll destroy me," I finished. "Yes. Fair enough." We didn't shake hands. We didn't hug. As I stood to leave, she said, "She's better because of you." "No," I said. "She's better because she chose to grow. I just got to witness it." When I got home, Rowan was on the couch, sketchbook in her lap. "How was it?" "Brutal," I said honestly. "But honest. And she's still terrifying." Rowan laughed and tugged me down beside her. "I like you better when you're a little scared. I like you better when you smile like that." We kissed slow and deep, like time belonged to us. That night, I opened my own sketchbook. And drew her again, just her face, just her eyes, the look she wore when she chose me, day after day. Only then did I realize I hadn't drawn anything else in weeks. We didn't get a proposal. There was no ring, no down on one knee moment with cameras flashing or tears perfectly timed. What we got instead was something slower, softer, real. It started with Sunday mornings with pancake batter on Rowan's nose, with her humming the same 3 lines of a song she couldn't remember the title of, with the way she'd always pour too much syrup and then blame me for distracting her. It grew in the in-betweens. In the way I'd leave little notes tucked in her shoes. In the way she started labeling her paintings with dates. Our dates small notches in time, like marks on a wall measuring how far we'd come. One day as we walked home from the market with bags swinging between us, she stopped on the corner near the bakery we never went to. "I had my first kiss there," she said, staring at the awning like it was a ghost. "It was terrible. She was older, mean. Thought she was doing me a favor." I stayed quiet, let her lead. She told me not to tell anyone. Said it would ruin her if people knew. I reached for her hand. "You're not a secret now." "No," she said, voice calm. "But I've spent so much of my life acting like I was." "I waited until you," she finished, eyes meeting mine. "You ruined my ability to hide." "I'm okay with being a ruin," I whispered. She smiled. "You're not a ruin. You're a revelation." We kissed on that corner in daylight in front of strangers. And no one looked away. A week later, she brought home a dog. No discussion, just a wide-eyed rescue with one floppy ear and a name tag that read Machi. We can't keep him, I said, already cradling him like a baby. We absolutely can, she replied, grinning. You should see how he looks at you. Like I owe him rent. Like he knows we're his now. And we were. Our apartment changed. More plants, more color, more laughter. Rowan painted the hallway with stars. Said she was sick of white walls and silence. I wrote again short stories this time, sometimes just little pieces of dialogue, I imagine for people in coffee shops or the couple across the street. We gave each other the things we hadn't known we needed. And one night while we sat on the floor eating takeout because the table was covered in paints and pencils, she looked at me like she couldn't believe I was real. Let's not get married, she said suddenly. I blinked. Okay, I mean it. I don't want the whole thing. Dresses and crowds and 4 smiles. I want a porch. I want a dog.